What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Ones Talk podcast. I'm your host, Ben Weiss, CEO and founder of Big Ice Entertainment. I have a very special guest today, Bob Celestin. Bob, thank you for coming on.
Man, Ben, thanks for having me, man.
I've really been looking forward to this episode. A close mentor of mine, Birdman Zoe, speaks very highly of you. You spoke at my program. You had a big impact on me. We had dinner together. I want to give a quick shout out to Bill Wordy and Lisa Steele of the Bandier program for, getting all these amazing speakers every Wednesday night for our Reza class, and that's how I got to meet Bob.
Wow,
Bob, how you doing today?
Man, I can't complain, man. Blessed to be here, man. Just got back from Florida, dealing with some matters dealing with the XXXTENTACIon estate. So, just dealing with that, man. But I'm here. Let's go.
Yeah. So my first question I'm going to ask you, when did you decide you wanted to be a lawyer?
Wow, funny story. So I'm a graduate of Yale University and Columbia Law School, right? At Yale, true story, I was going to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. So I'm of Haitian descent like Birdman Zoe.
Okay.
And if you know anything about Haitian culture, somebody in that family is going to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. It's just sort of the thing. Old school Haitians, I don't know about new school Haitians so much, but old school Haitians valued education over anything, right? So it didn't make matter if you could play ball or whatever. It's like, got to finish school, right? So that was like something that was inculcated in me and my siblings, and getting an education was important. So I had a very strong interest in science, still do, and I was going to be a doctor.
Wow.
I was pre-med.
Okay.
And so I get to Yale, my very first day on campus. I pull up with my station wagon. My mom had a station wagon, and I proceed to take out like one milk carton of vinyl records. You guys do know what vinyl records are? Okay, cool. I'm just joking, right? And I have my own little dilapidated record player. Right directly behind me pulls up this U-Haul truck, a small U-Haul truck, driven by these two brothers, right? They subsequently unload like 7 to 8 milk cartons of vinyl records. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at my one crate of vinyl, and I'm looking at their 7 or 8, and I'm like, I'm like, yo, excuse me, guys, what do you guys do? Like, how come you have so many records? Oh, we're DJs, right? And they were two brothers that were from Hartford, Connecticut. Okay. They got accepted to Yale, and they're like, hey, we're DJs, and we're gonna DJ, at Yale, and as well as in New Haven, Connecticut, which is where Yale is, right?
Yep.
Long story short, I ended up developing a relationship with them and became part of what was known back then as the Brothers Unlimited. And we DJ'd for parties at Yale, as well as in the New Haven community, right?
So cool.
So that was like my first dabbling into music. When I graduated from high school and went to Xavier High School on 16th Street, the predominant music genre was disco. It exploded. Another one of those kind of music that was initially created by blacks and Hispanics and gay culture also, right? Blew up. What killed the music was that genre of music was when Saturday Night Fever, this movie came out. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it before.
Okay, you need to see it.
I've never seen it, but I will.
Stars John Travolta, right? And that movie was a major success. Had a great soundtrack. The Bee Gees was on it and a bunch of other folks. And all of a sudden, disco became this big thing. And there was a radio station in New York called WK2 that played disco 24 hours, 365. Like, it was crazy.
Of all music?
Just disco music.
Okay.
It was a station dedicated just to disco music. And it became, and there was pushback, because rock and roll was supposed to be the genre. There was a little bit of a racist, like, pushback against the music. They had in Chicago, they had some sort of like event at a baseball stadium. Bring your disco records and we're gonna smash them and all that kind of stuff like that, whatever. Anyway, long story short, the music ultimately died when songs like Disco Duck started being released. That's when I kind of knew intuitively this is not going to be around for a long time. Didn't know like factually, but I'm like, oh man, this sucks, whatever. That opened up the doors for hip hop to start, right? So I get to Yale, and I'm involved with these DJs. I'm pre-med, and I also play basketball, right? I walked on to the freshman basketball team, and I also played JV. And during practice one day, I went up for a rebound. I got undercut, fell down on my lower back, and had like momentary like paralysis in my legs.
Oh my God.
Right, and so out of an abundance of caution, I was admitted to the Yale New Haven Hospital.
Wow.
For overnight observation.
How old were you?
What? I had to be 19 or 20?
That's scary.
Yeah, exactly. It was very
scary.
scary, right? I was like 19 years old at the time,
you're
right?
young.
And I'm like, oh shit, I can't, like, I'm tingling. I didn't even tell my mom and dad because they would have been like, oh, they would have drove down there, whatever. But, ultimately I got it back. But this was I'm in the hospital room and I had a roommate. And the roommate was an old white gentleman, right? Separated by a little curtain. He's in the next bed. He's right next door to me, and he's moaning in pain the whole night long, man. Like, I literally couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
He was in such pain. The nurses would come, give him something. Whatever they were giving wasn't working. He's like, oh, nurse, whatever. And I remember lying on my bed, and looking in the ceiling, and I had an epiphany. I said, I can't be around suffering and pain.
Yeah.
Like, this is not gonna work.
It's terrible.
I can't be a doctor.
It's not good for you.
You know what I mean? I'm just
Your
like
mental health. Like,
yeah, I'm a happy-go-lucky kid. I'm into music and this and that. And I'm like, I couldn't envision, working in a profession where, I have to deal with the fact that people are gonna get sick and some people are gonna die, right?
Shout out to all the doctors, but it definitely is a tough profession.
And it is definitely a calling, right?
Yeah.
For those people who are called, God bless you, because it's definitely something that you have to be called to do. Totally. You shouldn't be like, oh, I want to do it because I make a lot of money. Right. You're not gonna last that long.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's not
100%.
ruining the purpose of it.
So then I was like, of course, my mom and dad weren't happy about that, because especially my mom. She's like, well, I said, I don't think I'm not gonna be a doctor, Mom. What do you mean? Who's gonna take care of me when I get older? Da, da, da. The guilt trip or whatever. I said, Mom, I love you, but this is not gonna work for me. So now, another thing that was interesting was I then became at Yale. Yale had a radio station called WYBC FM.
Okay.
The YBC stands for Yale Broadcasting Corporation, and it was half Yaleese, half Townies, right? And because it was an Arbitron-rated radio station, which means that we had to keep our ratings up so that we could get advertisers to advertise on the station. Because the only thing Yale paid for was the actual, room itself, and they paid the electrical bill.
Okay.
Everything else, whether we need to get new needles, furniture, whatever, we had to pay for that ourselves. So in order to do that, we had to get advertising time. So we had a sales department, like 2 people. Their job was to go out there and raise money. My job was to make sure that I became ultimately the music director and program director, making sure that, we're playing records that the community liked, so that, our ratings would be higher, and therefore we can charge more for advertising time. So that kind of trained my ear to not like in most college radio stations where people play whatever they want to play. They get high and play, I just want to play this obscure track off this album that, is not commercial, but it's like, it's,
I can tell you firsthand, I did the radio show at my high school,
right.
And I know you worked with 6ix9ine, but I have a video of me that I sent to my dad a couple days ago. I played Billy, like 6ix9ine's song,
right,
on the school radio station. I was in 11th grade,
Whoa.
And I have a video of me like rapping it, and I sent it to my dad because my dad actually saw 6ix9ine on World Star when he had like 8,000 followers, and he called me and he's like, "This guy's gonna be the next whatever."
Really, your dad is that cool?
He is. Shout out to my
I don't
dad.
know, man. This is really, this is scary when the parents like hip hop.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the other way. They're supposed to hate it. They hate me so that's
Yeah.
But that's cool. So anyway. So, I'm on the radio, right? So what was happening was, because we were an Arbitron-rated radio station, record labels from New York would send their radio promo people to my radio station to pitch their records. Right. So I could add them to rotation. And so I ultimately, and the genre of music I was playing was black music, right? At the time, we called it black music back then. You guys call it urban now, but it's black music. And, so the radio promoters from, CBS Records, at the time, MCA, Warner Brothers, they come down, and I developed relationships with a number of them. One of them was, for example, Sylvia Rohn, who's like now the head of, I believe, Sylvia's the head of, I want to say Epic Records.
Okay.
She's the head of Epic Records. She was one of my mentors. And in the course of the relationship with them, they said, hey, well, Bob, so what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be a DJ on WBLS FM, which was at the time the preeminent radio station in New York, therefore in the country.
Right.
And there was a guy named Frankie Crocker who was the program director, legendary Frankie Crocker, may he rest in peace. And, he's playing, Rolling Stones, and he played Michael Jackson, and, and that was the station, by the way, that Mr. Magic had his first, hip hop show. Okay. Right. When he had an hour to play hip hop music when it was in its upswing. So they were like, hey, you should think about being a lawyer. And I'm like, well, being a lawyer? I said, yeah. I said, well, I want to be a DJ. I said, listen, the radio station you want to work for, the owner is a lawyer. Wouldn't you rather own a radio station than, work as a DJ? And I was like, oh, that's intriguing. And also record labels are run by lawyers. True. Right? And I was like, oh, really? Right? Because nobody in my family was a lawyer. I wasn't even thinking about that. And so, interestingly enough, they say, hey, well, what does it take to be a lawyer? Well, can you read? Check that box. Can you write? Check that box. And can you think? Well, I majored in psychology and philosophy. All I did was think. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose? What's the universe about? Da, 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 da. Now, but more importantly, in addition to what they had to say, the other most pivotal thing that happened to me at Yale was I took a course, I think my junior year at Yale, on black culture. Okay. It was taught by a white professor, Ferris Thompson, may he rest in peace. And this course blew my mind because the premise of the course was that American culture is created by or very heavily influenced by black people. I remember like, wow. And he took us back to Africa, the drum, the importance of the drum, how we as people of color respond physically to different rhythms and beats. Jazz being the first American music form. Jazz was improvisation, which was a metaphor for black life in America. The ability to make $1 out of 15 cents. You know what I mean? Like being able to persevere, in times of, still to this day when there's a lot of, unfortunate racism and all that kind of stuff like this, we still would be able to express ourselves creatively. Mm-hmm. And it sort of all made sense because when I was coming home during the summers, hip hop was in its infancy. Break dancing was going on. And, I wasn't a street kid per se, right? My parents, Haitian immigrants, pretty strict in a lot of ways. So, my form of rebellion, I remember, I think after my sophomore year, I remember going up to the Bronx where hip hop started, but there was a high school party. I went to this auditorium where there was a party and it was just packed with kids, primarily black kids. If there were any like light-skinned kids, they were Puerto Rican. I didn't really see a lot. I don't remember white kids being there, right? And the DJ was a guy named DJ Hollywood. So he would, he was scratching the records and he'd say, "Who does it good? Hollywood." The whole, you know what I mean? And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm in it." Like, and then now I'm getting this information about, how this is all starting, why it's starting, and I'm like, well, I'm clearly evidencing the creation of a culture, the birth of a culture. I could not have told you 40 some odd years later that this would be the predominant culture. If I said that to you, I'd be lying to you. Yeah. I knew there was something going on because one of the things that was, I learned from that course was that generally speaking, black people don't create fads, right? We create art, we create culture. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I remember having, little debates with, older black folk that would say, "Oh, this music is trash. It's not going to be around. Where are these? They're not going to be able to tour. What kind of music is there's no, all this extra stuff." I'm like, well, listen. All I know is this is not a fad. Yeah. It
runs the whole world now. Every
100%.
I mean, sports, fashion, I'm saying music third. I mean, hip hop runs the whole world.
100%, right?
Does.
And it's been an honor to be a part of it, to still be a part of it. You know what I mean? And doing my small little part to protect the culture and protect the culture creators, right? So now I'm like, I'm going to law school. I get accepted to Columbia Law School, and the only reason is so I can get into the music business because I couldn't rap, I couldn't sing, I'm not a street kid. You know what I mean? This was my way to get in there. I was smart. Spent 3 years there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. I mean, I still did my work, but every weekend I'm out. I'm at some event. I'm go to a club. Just soaking up this new thing that I was creating. You know what I mean? Buying the albums, Run DMC, all this. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I then graduate. I end up working at a corporate law firm for about 2.5 years on Park Avenue. I wore a suit every day. My mother was so happy. I wore a suit every day. But, ultimately, again, it was a means to an end, right? And the reason why I was working at this firm was because, most record labels or entertainment law firms wouldn't hire a law student straight out of law school. They kind of wanted you to work as a lawyer, get a little feeling as being an attorney before they bring you in and train you. Did that for 2.5 years. My first final legal job in the music industry was at Arista Records.
Okay.
Owned by Clive Davis, who was an attorney.
Yep.
It was the home of Whitney Houston, a bunch of other folks, but primarily Whitney Houston was the biggest star. When I got there, she was in the midst of negotiating or renegotiating her contract for the second album. I got a chance to be trained and, start learning what it meant to be a music lawyer, understanding contracts and the whole nine. I did that for about a year and a half, let's say. And then I met a guy named Andre Harrell. May he rest in peace. Andre Harrell was a former rapper, had worked with Russell Simmons at Rush Management, and was creating his own company called Uptown Records. We met. He said, hey, I need you to come on board. I want you to be the vice president and general manager of the company. You're going to help run the business. You'll continue your legal education because you're going to be handling the contracts and everything. But what was also interesting was because he knew that I was a DJ, he respected my ears. He said, hey, you'll be in the studio with these artists and the whole nine. And from Uptown's claim to fame was that it was the first company that merged hip-hop beats with R&B melodies and rhythms, right? Def Jam was just strictly beats and rhymes, you know what I mean? And then you had like Arista, whatever, which was just simply R&B. Uptown Records had this incredible producer who still is around named Teddy Riley. I remember being introduced to him and Andre telling me, this guy's going to change, this guy's incredible, he's going to change the game. And sure enough, he did, right? Ultimately, from Uptown, we signed Jodeci, Heavy D and the Boys, Guy, Al B. Sure, Mary J. Blige, who still is an incredible artist to this day.
Incredible.
You know what I mean?
I was standing with her at the BET Awards, like waiting like for them to like let us in for like 5 minutes, and like I was too scared to even say anything.
Wow.
Like, that's not like me, but I was like, she's a legend.
Very legend. You know what I mean? And so, and also Puffy, when I was there, Puffy was an intern. He did my last year there. He came as an intern. And to this day, I will tell you, he was probably, to this day, the best intern I've ever had a chance to work with. Because, he was a Howard student at the time. He would, like, literally hop the train to go Amtrak, whatever, to get to New York.
Right.
He had a briefcase, silver briefcase that had nothing in it. He had a jacket on, and his enthusiasm, to really get into the game, whatever you asked him to do, he would do it, right? Unlike these days where it's like, oh, I got to get paid, and I get it. I'm not mad. If you're able to pay people to be interns, I get it. I understand that. But the notion that if you're not getting any pay, you're not getting paid. You're not going to put your effort to it. Oh, this is too beneath me. I'm not getting you coffee. I'm not doing this and that. Well,
you're not going to get to the top.
You're not going to get to the top, right? And so I did that for about 3 years. I then went to work for another company called Untouchables Entertainment that was run by a DJ for Heavy D and the Boys named Eddie F.
Okay.
He had a company called Untouchables Entertainment. It was a joint venture with L.A. Reid of LaFace Records, who brought the hip-hop scene to Atlanta, or brought the Atlanta hip hop scene to the world, so to speak. Did that for 2.5 years. I then went to work for an attorney named Louise West, who is I call her the mother of my career. She was a matriarch to a lot of black entertainment attorneys. She was she had her own practice. She brought me in to work with her, and collectively we represented Genuine, Miss C. Elliott, Timbaland. And then I was on my own. She's like, all right, I had you in the nest long enough. Now, time for you to go out here and spread your wings. Yeah. And in 2000, I've been on my own since 2000.
Incredible story.
Yeah. In 1999, 2000, I was co-managing a group called City High. And it's interesting that we're here at Platinum Studios because Jerry Wonder, who is in the next room, who owns Platinum Studios, was the guy that we were signed to. He had a company called Booger Basement Records.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Full circle moment.
Full circle moment.
Full circle moment.
So love Jerry Wonder to death. And of course, we also worked with Wyclef, who is Jerry's cousin. We were signed to Interscope Records with Jimmy Iovine. And, we had success. We had a hit record called What Would You Do? And followed up with Caramel. And it was two black guys and a Puerto Rican girl named Claudette Ortiz, Ryan Toby, and Robbie Pardlow. And that was really a great thing for me at the time because around that time, 1999, 2000, this guy named Sean Fanning created Napster. And Napster really screwed up the game, right?
A lot. That was before my time, and
when Napster was created, it really was like the death knell. It felt like the death knell of the music industry, because Napster, as you probably you don't remember, it allowed young people to just rip music off a CD and share it with their friends. So CD sales, which was the way in which music was distributed prior to Napster, just took a nosedive in terms of sales. And every year, you had CD sales started diminishing. And the way it felt to me was like on Monday, my phones were ringing, clients and all that. Wednesday, Napster's created, and then Friday, I'm sitting in my office like, how come the phones aren't ringing? Right. It felt that way. Right. Because record labels were going out of business, they were consolidating, and then they were not signing a lot of artists. And primarily at that point, I'm an artist advocate, right? Yeah. So I represent artists that are going to sign to record labels. Well, if record labels aren't signing artists, I got a problem. So, thankfully, a few years, and so what the record labels did was they started suing, Napster and LimeWire and all these other things. They kind of sued them out of existence. And then, Steve Jobs from Apple created iTunes. Mm-hmm. And that sort of helped stem the tide of piracy for a minute, right? Because kids were like, well, if I'm going to rip a song, off the computer, off the internet, whatever, it doesn't sound that great. But if for 99 cents, I can download that. You know what I mean? So that was kind of cool. But it wasn't until Daniel Ek created Spotify, which I think was 2008, something along those lines. We should probably Google it. But when Daniel Ek created Spotify, it was like a sea change, right? It has helped and it's driven the music industry into a very profitable state at this point. It's brought it back. And then some.
Beyond. Yeah.
Beyond, right? So the way, just so your people who are listening understand, prior to streaming, the music industry was based on an ownership model. Right? You buy the CD, buy the vinyl, you own it. Yeah. Daniel Ek's brilliance was to say, hey, what if I made it possible for a fan or the consumers to have access to all the music? They don't own it, but they can have access to all the music ever created, and all it's going to cost them is a monthly subscription. Right. Brilliant, right? And not only has it brilliant for new artists, it's also helped legacy artists or, artists that had catalog.
I was about to say, it makes that the catalogs that these big companies are purchasing, it actually makes it kind of worth it because it's a lifelong investment.
That's why they're buying catalogs.
The people who are buying the catalogs aren't the people who want quick cash. The smart people, listen, Future, for example. Right. In my opinion, he's at the peak of his career right now. He's as big as it could be. He never did an arena tour before. He was supposed to do one with Nicki Minaj when I was in 10th grade, and it got canceled because they didn't sell enough tickets. Right. Now the demand, he's extended the tour 3 times already. So, to me, he sold his catalog for $75 million. Why not? I mean, that's a ton of money, and now he's gonna keep making more music.
That's
and
correct.
Another catalog.
That's correct.
It's a fresh start.
That's correct.
So I mean, to get $75 million, he bought an $8 million apartment in the Bentley residence in Miami, a $16 million house in the water. Like, he's living. Like,
correct.
Take the money.
Correct. So you know, there's pros and cons to it, but yes, but all of that even catalog sales and everything, it's been made possible because of streaming.
Right.
And you know, a lot of the folks that follow this stuff will say streaming hasn't even hit its peak yet, right? There are certain other countries that are not online yet, and you know, estimate that when they're online, it's going to be even more. Yeah. So streaming has really been, you know, the saving grace of the music industry, and for me, you know, it was really a godsend because I ended up representing a lot of, I call the new music clients. You know, my first, you know, quote unquote new music client was Designer. Yeah. Who I still represent. What up, Designer? I still represent him. He's doing really well. We had Panda in 2016. Yep. You know, massive hit record. And then that opened the doors for me to represent the late XXXTENTACIon. And may he rest in peace. Was a great artist, great person.
He's had such an incredible impact on the world.
100%.
You were just showing me, you know, a 6-year-old who dressed up as him.
Yeah, I've got a 6-year-old kid that is a fan. It's hard to believe or understand. Like, you're 6 years old. Like, how do you even know this guy?
And
you know what I mean?
You were really working with him at the peak of his career. So
100%.
I mean, you've really seen the growth from a, you know, just a regular artist, someone trying to make it to, you know, unfortunately, he had a very untimely passing, but I mean, the impact that he's had on the world, he's streaming over 1 billion streams a year
100%.
Since he's passed away.
100%.
I mean, it's incredible. Even Juice WRLD, like, I mean,
I don't understand it. You know what I mean?
Terrible.
Like normally what happens when an artist passes, you have what's known as the decay rate, where over time the argument is that, you know, the further away you get from when the artist passed, the streaming, the number of people listening to music would decrease.
For both Juice WRLD and X, I mean, their streams have gone up by like 700-800%.
It's so crazy. Yeah. Right? So at the end of the day, you know, that was, you know, an incredible experience working with X. Shout out to his mom, Cleo, who now runs the estate, and she's done an incredible job. Also Solomon, you know, Sounds, who still manages the estate. Yeah. You know, we're trying to maintain X's legacy.
You guys have done an incredible job at
it. Appreciate that. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, those of you listening, check out his documentary called Look at Me on Hulu.
It's unbelievable.
We actually did it with Rob Stone.
No way.
Yes, he's one of the co-executive producers.
That's awesome.
Rob Stone from The Fader, who's been an incredible partner, you know, and even though he never actually got a chance to meet X before he passed, has been really, you know, respectful and honoring, you know, X's legacy.
His stories touch so many people. It's 100%. Like it leaves a lasting effect on you.
Right. Then that opened up the doors for me to represent another, you know, interesting artist named 6ix9ine, who I still work with, and that has been an incredible experience. You know, with all the other non-music things that he's been involved in. You know what I mean? And again, a lot of these artists, you know, what you hear from media is not who they are as human beings. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, and I just want to say one thing about that. People portray 6ix9ine as this, you know, demon, snitch, whatever. I met him 2 months ago in Miami. I spoke to him for 5 minutes. He was one of the nicest celebrities I have ever met. 100%. If you look at my Instagram, I've not even trying to flex. I've met pretty much every single rapper. I've interviewed a million rappers. My point is, he's a genuine good person who cares about his fans, cares about the community. And I went over to him and I literally spoke to him for 5 minutes. I showed him, I dressed up as him it was my senior year of high school for Halloween. I showed him, he gave me a hug. Yep.
That's crazy.
And it was just, and the year before actually, on New Year's, I was at the club and he was in the section with Steve Will Do It. And I love Steve Will Do It too. And I was like trying to like, you know, sneak into their section. And the security guard pushes me. So I'm like, all right, like it's not happening. A girl falls. 5 security guards are like helping this girl. Me and my friend sneak in. We were the last people at the club waiting to try and meet 6ix9ine. This as, you know, he was drinking all night and then he drove off in his McLaren with his ex-girl Jade, but it was really funny. Danny's a good dude, so whatever the internet portrays him as is not who he is.
Yeah, Josh was a great dude. Danny was a great dude. It's still a great dude. Like, you know, one of the things I give you a quick story for Danny was, and I call him Danny, was that, you know, I had a client who called me up and said, hey, her friend's daughter was suffering from cancer, but is a big 6ix9ine fan. Again, these young kids are fans. You know what I mean? And all she lives in Brooklyn. She would just love it if Danny just called her. You know, 6ix9ine just called her.
Right?
Right. But listen, so I tell Danny, I said, listen, I got a favor to ask you. This friend of mine, her daughter is terminally sick with some sort of cancer. You know, could you give her a call? He said, I'll do you one better, Bob. What's the address? And I'm like, seriously? He said, yeah. He went straight down there, you know, to meet with her. And I was like, wow.
And it's genuine. He didn't just do it.
100%.
Genuine dude.
And I've had other clients that I've asked to do certain things, charitable things. They're like, yeah, and they never do it.
For the look, but
he did it just like whatever.
Cares.
So as far as I'm concerned, he could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
And you know what? There's probably a lot more good that he does that we don't know about because he's been a lot more low key on social media. You know, he'll post once a month, once every 3 weeks, whatever, with, you know, $15 million cash in his safe in his garage.
Right.
But those other 3 weeks, we're not seeing him on Instagram. He's not doing bad shit, because if he was, we'd be hearing about it.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, also, I know you work with Pop Smoke.
Yeah, so that opened up the door for me to meet with Pop again. You know, this is one of the things, man. It's like, you know, get Pop, another great guy.
He could have been the next 50 Cent, and
100%.
His music touched me in a way. I never felt that way about an artist's music. He was 3 years older than me at the time. I have a quick story. I was on my way to the Knicks game, and there's this store near my house called Hirschleifer's. It's like a Saks kind of store, whatever. And one of the guys who works there is my friend, and he texts me. He's like, Pop Smoke's here. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, I need to go, but I'm on the train, so I don't know what to do. So my friend literally lives right next door. So I called him. He went, was freaking out, took a video with him. Maybe, 2-3 months later, my brother and my dad were coming to visit me at school, and they're at the Newark airport, and my brother calls me, and he's like, Pop Smoke is here. I'm like, no, he's not. He's like, Pop Smoke is here. I kid you not, I FaceTime him. I have it on video. I screen recorded it. Pop Smoke grabs the phone. He goes, what up, Ben? And my brother never told him my name. So I literally have it on video. If you look at my TikTok, it's there. And that moment, and unfortunately, that was on his way to LA, the flight where unfortunately he passed away. But I mean, that moment was just.
Yeah, these guys,
they're good people.
Exactly.
They're good people. Yeah. And it's the internet doesn't give them the chance to show that they're good people. And like I was saying before, there's a lot of good going on behind the scenes.
Being good doesn't sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being an asshole, or doing something stupid, or, cursing somebody else out, whatever. Unfortunately, that's what gets traction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
so
terrible.
Again, and as far as I was concerned, my relationship with them was, he was a good guy. You know what I mean? We were on the verge of doing some, really big things. Always gave me respect, always treated me great. You know what I mean? So his passing, really, really hurt, because again, for me in particular, it's the second client that I lost like this. You know what I mean?
Big client too.
Big client, you know what I mean? Both big clients. And it really hurts. And with Pop, what really, really hurts is the fact that his music, at least in New York, is omnipresent. It's always playing. I know. So you don't get a chance to forget. You know what I mean? Not that I would want to forget, but his music is just, shout out to his family. You know what I mean? They're holding him down. But it's just so unfortunate. It's
crazy on the impact that his music had, and he to most people he wasn't even at his peak.
Of course.
He just dropped the album, and what do you have? He had it was the Meet the Woo album, and then he had Meet the Woo 2, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, even that kid Booba Savage, the kid from New York.
Yeah.
Who did the music video for him?
Right.
That blew the kid up. I mean, now he's at the age where he's being taken seriously as an artist. But I mean, the way I know Pop Smoke's girlfriend at the time of his passing, and that passing, I remember what class I was in. I was in a philosophy class. It was my freshman year. I was in my recitation.
Philosophy class? I majored in philosophy too.
I left, and
you're a thinker.
Yeah, I went. I was just so upset because it was I was getting to watch the next 50 Cent come up in my lifetime while I'm in a music business school.
Right.
And he's a local guy, and it's just like, it all just seemed like perfect.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's very unfortunate that,
Yeah.
people are willing to kill someone over a diamond chain. It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
yo, whoever's watching this, chains are not worth killing for. These watches are not worth killing for. I was supposed to interview Rob 49, the Louisiana guy in Miami 2 months ago. We were supposed to meet at 6:30, and he just stopped answering. I was confused, so I go to dinner with my friend. I look on Instagram, he got shot.
He's still alive, though?
He's still alive. I actually saw him perform at the Future concert, but it's like 10 people got shot at it was like DJ Khaled's restaurant, The Licking, and just, it was over a watch and a wallet.
Yeah,
The industry's changed. It's a lot of jealousy is what it is.
Yeah, you got to make sure I always tell people, like, to separate the industry per se from what people are doing outside of it, you know? Because in both X and also Pop's case, it wasn't like they had a beef with some gang member or whatever. It was just
for X, they
outright.
wanted 50 grand in cash because they knew he was at the bank. And for Pop Smoke, they knew he had diamond chains and they posted.
Wanted his money.
Yeah.
Instead of being inspired to say, oh, wow, you know what?
Get this for myself.
Let me see if I can go and get this myself. You'd rather go steal and take somebody else's stuff, you know what I mean? And then kill that person for what?
It's so stupid. And like, even just based on, a lot of the stuff that's happened in hip hop, like, when was the last time you've heard of like one of these rappers getting murdered and it doesn't come out who did it? Like, everyone gets caught always. So it's just really a matter of time. And there's so much talent that's like being taken away from the world and so much art. And it's really unfortunate that that's what's coming with hip hop.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
It's really unfortunate.
We're just hoping that unfortunately, young artists have to be a lot more aware, especially as they become successful. They've got to watch who their circle of friends are. Yeah. Even athletes. You know what I mean? You
John Morant.
Athletes, exactly. Who are you hanging around, bro? Why are you hanging around these people if they want to give
John
you
Morant
a
is
gun?
hustling backwards.
They're gonna give you a gun. Like, what planet did you think that shit was cool to show a gun on?
At 6:30 in the morning.
Like, what are you
after
doing?
you had a team meeting, and that guy, he likes to go out.
I'm not mad at people going out.
Yeah.
But come on, you're a father. You got this. Like, what do you?
I watched him spend $60,000 at the strip club. I watched it.
Listen, I'm not even mad at that, right? If that's what you want to do, it's fine. As long as you're taking care. I just don't understand why you have friends. Like, you're not at that point. There's no one around you to say, listen, either we got to get you a security guard to move around and kind of like protect you from these quote unquote friends of yours. And I get it. They're kind of stuck because they grew up with a certain set of people.
He didn't though. He went to private school. Growing up.
Then that's even worse.
He's hustling backwards.
He
went to private school growing up.
Now you want to be a fake gangster or something like that.
You know what it is? Is the athletes hang out with the rappers, and that, you know what I'm saying? Like, even me, like what I wear, like I see, something Lil Baby's wearing, and I'm not saying I copy Lil Baby, but I'm like Lil Baby's like the freaking coolest person ever. Like, I want that sweatshirt. Like, I'm not saying with this, but just in general, like it's like people follow the trends of the rappers, and I feel like Ja, unfortunately, has taken a very bad, I guess, effect or taken a bad impact from, not spending time with his teammates. And it's,
let's hope that he learns from this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because he's a very talented guy. I saw him.
So talented.
I respect the fact that he takes care of his daughter. It seems like he's a great father.
Even his friends too.
You know what I mean? And just but be careful of some of the friends you're taking care of. If you had a friend at that club that gave you the gun or even had a gun on him,
it's his fault.
That wasn't a licensed security guard with a gun, and even then, a licensed person wouldn't have given them the gun.
Right.
Like, chill, bro. Like, somebody should have been like, no, that's not a good look, man. Put that shit away.
I mean, he's got a $100 million Nike deal. He has a $200 million extension that hasn't even started yet.
Correct.
And it's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's it's just how the world is.
Yeah.
All right. I guess. I mean, this was an incredible interview. I want to wrap it up by asking you to tell the viewers some free game. You're a very intelligent guy. You've had a very big impact on me from when you spoke in Resnick to sitting with you now, having dinner with you, seeing you in LA a few weeks ago. Again, you've had a very big impact on me, so I want you to share some of that impact with the viewers if you can.
I mean, look, those of you who are artists out there, producers, songwriters, I want you to write down these 3 initials. It's called CYNE. CYS,
I remember this.
which means copyright your shit.
Yep. I remember this. I remember.
It's probably the easiest thing that you can do. You go to www.copyright.gov. Follow the instructions. If you can't understand what's on the site, go on YouTube. Type in how to copyright my music with the Copyright Office. It's probably the best thing you can do to protect the intellectual property in your work, right? Even before you meet with a lawyer, right? Register copyright. Then obviously, before you go sign anything, see a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right?
And read it yourself, too.
Yeah, read it yourself, but see a lawyer. Be on the lookout for, and we were talking about this earlier.
We were talking about this before.
These fake contracts, these fake, DMs you're getting from people that claim to be from a record label, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm with so and so record label. I've been listening to your music. I think you have what it takes to be a hit, to be a recording artist, a superstar. Da 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 da. We want to sign you to our label." And then they'll say they're like with Sony or Warner Brothers. Listen, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Right? And they send you a contract. The pages aren't numbers. The misspelling. Certain sections are blank. Whatever. And they throw in, "Oh, you're gonna get $500,000. We're gonna build you a house, and we're gonna do all that." Don't fall for the okie doke.
Listen, if Lil Baby wanted to sign you, Lil Baby would call you himself and tell you he wants to sign you.
And FaceTime you.
Literally.
And even then,
Here's a
I want to
4PF
FaceTime.
chain, you're signed.
Right.
That's what you begin.
Or something like that. Exactly. You know what I mean? So just be cautious. You know what I mean? Also, be persistent. At the end of the day, if it's something that you really want to do, right? What sacrifices are you willing to make to achieve your goal? Right? And only you can be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and say, okay, how hard am I going to go? What sacrifices am I willing to make? Do I have to cut off my boyfriend or my girlfriend if they're not supportive? You know what I mean? Do I have to cut off some friends if they're not supportive? Do I have to work, or go to the studio after I work, get a job, and what are you prepared to do? Yeah. How badly do you want it, right? If you don't really want it and you just want to have fun, you can do. It's fine too. You create it like it's a hobby. Mm-hmm. For some people, it can be a hobby. Oh, I have a job that I like, but I like music, so I'll make some records, put it out there. Whatever happens. It's cool. Not mad, no judgment, whatever. But if you really want to come out here and be a star, or whether it's an amazing superstar producer or an artist, you got to be willing to put in the time and the work. You know what I mean? And be able to persevere. Now, it helps tremendously if you actually have some talent.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you ain't got no talent, it's not going to work. But if you're talented and you're willing to put in the work, good things will happen.
Yep.
One last thing I want to say. I got this artist that I'm developing. His name is Don ZOP.
Okay.
So
you want to give his Instagram?
I'm going to give it right now. @DONZIOP. Follow him, check him out. We're trying to do some things with him. I'm doing some things with him. So appreciate all your support. And then follow me on the gram, which is @Bob, BOBCELESTIN. So Ben, I want to thank you, man, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, bro.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you guys for watching the Real Ones Talk podcast. My Instagram is _Ben Weiss, and the podcast Instagram is @Real Ones Talk. Bob, you were one of my favorite guests I've ever had. You had such a big impact on me. I really appreciate you coming on again.
Thanks again. Appreciate it, bro. Bye. Peace.